So what do you do here? And just tell me your story if you don't mind, kind of like I just shared.
So I'm the executive director here now.
Okay.
I started back in December here, so it's
Okay.
relatively new for me. But I started in prevention when I left Adams State College with a degree in psychology.
Okay.
And prevention was all geared towards working with youth and preventing issues that come up with youths dropping out of school, getting involved in drugs, different things like that. And I've done that since I left college 15 years ago. Well, no, it's about 20 years now.
Yeah.
I went and got a lot of background in kind of this industry. I don't know what you'd call it, but so we moved from here back when there was kind of a recession in 2007.
Okay. 7 and 8
One
were
of
the
the first-
recession years.
yeah.
Yeah. Just started.
Yeah, and so we went out to Salt Lake, me and my wife, and I got in some, I got into a treatment home, residential treatment home with youth, where kids were getting treated inside a residential unit and had a whole bunch of different issues that were going on. And I bring that up more because when I got out there, because of the recession, and it's interesting that builders, right, you guys bring up trades. I did some building construction stuff. I had a brother that's in construction.
Okay.
But we got out there and the industry was in a recession, and so nobody had jobs.
Yeah.
And ran into a lot of builders looking for different jobs and going into different things, but found out at that stage that a lot of them, right, cocaine, a lot of them
Yeah.
meth, a lot of stuff that they're all using and getting into, and some of them doing it because they had jobs and money and everything was going well, and then all that kind of falls off and it keeps them busy and they're taking on more than they need to stay busy, and so they, for whatever reason, start using, and then everything kind of fell off, and then ran into a lot of guys starting to look for treatment and get into treatment. And then I ended up working in a residential treatment program out there with addicts that came from all over the United States and got treatment out there.
And those were adults?
Utah. And
That
they
was
were
a
adults.
facility with adults. Okay.
Yeah, and along with that, I was also working on an outpatient program up in Park City, Utah. And same thing, a lot of clients and people that were going through that program actually were a lot of blue collar type workers that recession hit and things cut back and then needed treatment, and for various reasons they started engaging in treatment too.
So you've been doing this your whole life. This has been your career, working with, at-risk youth.
Yeah.
And then transitioned into the adult treatment facilities.
Yeah, this has kind of been the main thing that I've been doing since I left with a degree in psychology.
You sound very similar to my path, actually. I left with a degree in psychology, and I was a wilderness counselor for youth. I lived in the woods 24 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I didn't get into those, but those were all over in Utah, Salt Lake. But
what got you to here? So you were living in Utah, and then you moved to Denton. Where do you live now? Do you
so I grew up here in the valley.
You did grow up in the valley.
Yeah.
So I missed that part.
Sorry, I grew up 30 minutes south of here in Manassas.
Oh, and then Paul said he grew up 14 miles south of here.
Yeah.
Did you guys in the same
area? So I know Paul's family and the Reeds, and there's connections with some.
It's all coming together.
My family, Paul and my sister, were kind of the same age in high school and ran together, and some of her friends. So there's some connections there, just growing up in a small community.
Yeah.
So
did Paul then reach out to you because of those connections, knowing what you were doing?
Well, I don't know. They reached out. It's funny, we just got a text. I was getting numbers from him, and he had texted me back in 22.
Okay.
And I think they were starting to look at this. And it wasn't, I don't know if it was because of the connections, but my name came up because I had moved back here in 2013 to start prevention programming in my own county.
Okay.
And then through that, I think they got my name and thought I'd be a good fit for here. And so, but we never kind of connected until just recently.
Yeah, so you started in December, so you're 2.5 months in.
Yeah.
And then how has this impacted you?
So treatment in general, I've liked treatment, and I like good treatment. And I think all of us know there's the difference between good treatment and there's difference between bad treatment, and you kind of have to be proactive in getting it. And so here you can see that they're on the line to create a really good treatment program that, in all reality, services in our valley, there hasn't been a new program like this for probably like 30 years.
Yeah.
And so now this has started, and it's interesting that the name on it says hope, right? Hope in the valley, but that hope is in it because that starts that path of change, and right, people get engaged and get hopeful and think, hey, I can do this, or I can get to a certain point. And so you get to see that firsthand from somebody that walks in the door pretty low and dragging themselves in, to somebody like the guy you interviewed in here leaves and he almost hits his head on the door on his way out. Yeah. And so there's a big change that goes on. And in all the stuff that I've done with kids, families, people in general, I have a brother, same thing, that's been struggling with addiction.
We have no tissue.
That's what I'm looking for.
I'm looking for tissue
I
for you
guess
as
I'm
well.
the only one that needs
No,
tissue.
I've been.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
No.
So I've got a brother that's been struggling with addiction for the better part of 20 years and lost everything. He was a blue collar worker, ran businesses, had a carpet cleaning business, laid flooring, did carpet. In all reality, ended up hurting his back. Same story, right? It starts with prescription drugs, and then they came in and started regulating prescription drugs, and then they start finding it in other places. And that's not his only story, but he's been struggling with it for a long time. But being able to see change happen in anybody that's looking for it is hopeful, right? Because change is hard to make happen in an individual, and an individual has to get to that point and make that decision for themselves. And you see it here every day, whether it's a little bit of change or a huge amount. And so you get to see that when they walk out that door.
Where I talk about last night, you weren't at the meeting last night, right?
No.
Okay. So I want to talk about that. So just if I forget, because you're making me emotional too now, and I love you for it. How is your brother now? Is he still struggling?
So he's still struggling with addiction and struggling. It's here in the Valley, I don't know if but we're more probably severely impacted by the opioid epidemic than other places. And I know that there's some data and research, but we have more drug babies here in Alamosa, drug-exposed babies that are sent out over to Colorado Springs than the rest of the state in general. And so there's a huge need for treatment for those things. And so he's still struggling. And when he left here, I don't know if I can talk about him getting treatment here or not, but
that's fine.
Same thing. I knew he'd go one way or the other, and he chose to go back into it. And when that happened, I knew he wasn't quite there yet, but there was some hope. There was some change in him.
Yeah, that's what Tammy talked about. The fact, people are going to relapse, and Hope in the Valley isn't. She hopes that people realize, like, it's not something that changes overnight, right? Obviously, I know that this is a lifelong struggle, and it's never going to go away. So, for people in the community to realize, yes, so-and-so was here, left, may have gotten, maybe had to come back, but there was a little change. And sometimes it takes, right? I mean, I'm not you. Yeah. You've obviously lived this, therapeutic life working in the different facilities, but, if you change a little bit at a time, hopefully, eventually it clicks.
Yep.
And sometimes it doesn't at all. Because there's that too.
And so it's a gambit of people. And but like you said, that little change creates that path, and it's a path that they get on.
Last night, Jordan and I got to listen to Paul talk to everybody here, and obviously all the staff was there listening as well. Pretty emotional, pretty amazing, and something they said that you kind of hit on just now, and that you're a huge part of. And I'm sure you know that, but I'm sure you're also the type of person that doesn't always want to take credit for it. This guy he was the guy from Roofers in Recovery that they brought, and his last day was last night. Yeah. He left out this morning at 8:00 flight or whatever. Paul said his thing, and his thing was amazing. That was the first thing I took from that. But then he opened it up, and Hunter talked a little bit, and he was very articulate, very smart kid, young man. But then this other gentleman, I don't know his name, maybe Brian or something, but anyway, it doesn't matter. He spoke, and he started crying, like he was emotional, and he said, I've been to rehab facilities, and this one cares. Like, the people in this room, the people that have been working with me for the last 30 days care, and I am so much better for it, and I'm hopeful when I leave tomorrow at 8 a.m., I can't wait to be back with my family and have that glow. Yeah. It was just cool to see, like, you guys are obviously making a huge impact. I mean, Alamosa alone has never had a rehab facility, and it's probably been in need of one for the entirety of the community, correct? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. This is long overdue for a
yeah,
facility here.
yeah,
And that's being in the valley, we have limited resources.
right,
And they classify us as a rural area, but we're technically a frontier area,
okay,
really based on services. And, the state's moving and trying to do more, but this place is kind of ahead where they're at because they're kind of in front of that. But
do you feel like this place could maybe move that needle a little bit quicker for them, seeing the progress that you've made in the community?
oh, yeah, I think people seeing that and getting that to the right people and the right politicians and
Yeah,
right places, it definitely changes the needle because there's a huge need here. But frontier areas like this, because they're all over Colorado,
yeah,
but the valley specifically, because I live here, it's underserved and we don't have the resources that you do. If you go into the urban settings up in Denver and other areas, and it doesn't mean they have more of a need, and they have a lot more population, but it just affects us differently down here.
You having your history of being in facilities and seeing what works and what doesn't work, it sounds like you've made a little bit of a footprint, just like Tammy and the rest of the staff, where you can kind of make processes based on your experiences of what works and what doesn't work. Am I right at feeling that way?
But yeah, I mean, implement, and there's good treatment, right?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of said you do things a little bit differently, right? Like the people here really care.
One of the biggest words in any kind of treatment, anywhere that you go, is engagement.
Yeah.
And focusing on being able to engage somebody in treatment versus disengage them. And there's places that tend to focus on punitive things and not meeting clients where they're at.
Yeah.
And we get a mixed bag of clients that come in. They're all at different levels. And so being a dynamic and having dynamic staff here helps with that because we can engage them where they're at and then provide that service and keep them on that path longer. Time is one of the biggest things in treatment, right? It's all measured in days.
Yep.
Nobody looks past a day. And so you get 30 days, and that's a bigger feat than sometimes we give them credit for.
Getting to that 30-day mark.
Yeah, or just getting to the next day,
Yeah.
being sober, right?
Yeah.
Because some clients that come in here 30 years, they've been doing it 20 years, right? It's a long time of doing something daily that's consumed your life to the effect that you've lost everything.
Hunter's at day 96. I remember him saying that yesterday at the meeting, day 95. So when he came in to sit at that chair, I was like, congrats on 96, right? Am I right? He's like, yeah, 96.
Yeah.
He's never felt better in his entire 29 years of life. He just, like you said, I love that analogy. He's like basically hitting his head going out the door because he's standing so tall.
And I don't want to take credit for anything, right? I think it's staff and everything they built here, and it's collective. And the individual is what makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But I think programs in general can create opportunities of success. And I've looked at that for youth that I've worked with and families that I've worked with, is we can create the opportunity and do it in the way that then maybe they'll engage with that opportunity at that time.
There's the old adage, it takes a village, obviously, right? Like maybe the impact that Hope in the Valley has is it takes a valley, not a village. Looks like you guys are doing it. I told Tammy just from top down, Kim, Paul, and I had dinner with, Jordan as well, sorry. Like the four of us had dinner and we talked a lot yesterday. You nailed it. Everybody that I've seen, everybody in this organization here, you're all in. It's evident. It was evident in the meeting last night when Paul spoke and everybody just said, the staff is amazing. You guys care about us. It's evident in my conversations with you, Tammy.
Thanks.
I mean, you guys are all in. And honestly, I think the impact it's going to have on the Valley is going to be pretty amazing. What do you hope? What do you envision? And what is your hope as far as, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road? What does the Valley look like? What does Alamosa look like?
I mean, the best thing is that more awareness, right? Blue-collar workers or anybody that's struggling with substances, research shows is that people are well aware of it way before they seek treatment, right? And some people tend to enable the behavior way too long. And if we get more awareness out there, people will start tending to seek treatment sooner, kind of lower the stigma around addicts, because it doesn't have a bias, right? It affects everybody. Every walk of life is affected by addiction and substances of some kind, whatever those are, hoping that they get into treatment sooner and getting the services that they need so they can start that road sooner and recover and get into recovery sooner, and then creating that network here in the Valley that can support that, because it's hard, because finances, whatever it is, there's always a barrier to treatment, right? And it's hard when somebody comes to the door and needs treatment and you can't offer it for various reasons. Creating that network, that there's opportunities where there is support and the stigma around addiction kind of goes away, because, you look at my brother now, right? He gets labeled. We label things certain ways. And at one point, he was a functioning member of society and contributed quite a bit, and has he's got kids and everybody, and he's got grandkids now that he doesn't even know about. And removed himself from that, probably because of the shame that comes. I've seen that in him and talking to him too.
Yeah.
So,
well, the Valley's already better because of you and Tammy and the team and the people that are leading this. 339, maybe 340 now, with the one gentleman that left today. I don't know what the real number is. It's around there.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And Tammy said a majority live in Alamosa.
Yeah.
So I told Tammy, let's just call it 250 people you have educated and helped and loved and supported. That's 250 people that this Valley did not have, 10 months ago. So the more people you get in, and the more people that learn to create awareness. Hunter even said it, right? Like, he was like, people, my support staff, my support community is amazing. And I didn't think they would be, because of the shame I felt and all that. Yeah. He mentioned everything that you just said, Hunter said himself.
Yeah.
So obviously, and yes, Hunter's a big part of his recovery, but you guys are doing good stuff, man. This trip, Andrew, has been amazing for us. I can be totally honest with you on that. Is there anything you wanted to share that maybe you didn't have an opportunity to just now?
I think they're doing great things here. Just having treatment makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And when people walk in that door, that's what you kind of take it to the basic thing, but as soon as they walk in, you're lowering their risk of everything else that's out there in the outside. And so it's when they walk in, hopefully we can catch them and provide services. And recovery, it's all on them, right?
Yep.
Staff and everybody else. But I think it's creating those opportunities for success, which I think Hope in the Valley is doing. It's a huge opportunity. We've had clients come through here that would have had to go to Pueblo, Colorado Springs, further away to get treatment, as far as like residential goes. And so now it's right here, sometimes right outside their back door. And that access makes a big difference.
Kim and Paul had a vision. It's grown since Roofers in Recovery. They're looking at expanding into just mental health and teaching contractors in the U.S. about mental health and providing some sort of resource or educational module for them. So I want to be a part of it. I love it.